Hello, beautiful, lightful souls. I'm here with Daniel and Sylvie Giroux, and we're going to talk about their upcoming workshop about opening to intuition. And I think this is so important for people because there's people who are at varying degrees of trusting their own intuition and getting confused by what is fear, what is intuition. Maybe someone sees images, someone has a sense of knowing. Other people are really just uncertain whether they are intuitive at all. And so I think a workshop like this will open people up to their own intuition in a variety of ways. So, what's one of the most common questions you get from people about intuition?
Well, first of all, thank you for having us.
Oh,
This
yeah.
we truly appreciate this opportunity. What's one of the actually we get asked a lot of questions, but one of the first ones we get asked is what is intuition? Intuition is an innate ability we all have. It's just we are never taught how to focus on it. It's that sense of knowing. Claircognizance, sense of knowing. What do I hear? What do I feel? What do I see? What do I know at all times? It's becoming aware of what's happening inside of you, mostly. Do you have something to
I was
add
going
to
to say intuition is the language of the soul.
that?
That's what I think of when
Yes.
what is intuition to me? It's that language.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
that's what it is. Basically, it's another language. Like we are all adept at conversation. Like we're having a conversation now, um, and we learn to recognize certain cues. Bodily cues, voice intonation. Same thing happens with intuition. It's a language learned, and it's something that requires a lot of practice. Now, since intuition is an innate ability, if it's there, it's easy to make it grow, but there are very specific exercises where you can get to the point where you're using intuition all day long, like throughout your day. You can use intuition, and you learn to pay much closer attention to what's happening around you at the same time. You become a better listener to other people. Like it improves your life overall. And you mentioned fear, I think, at one point. Um, fear, fear of the unknown. It's like anything,
Or fear of being wrong. You receive this information, and oftentimes
Yes.
at the beginning especially, it can be really hard to make sense of what you're receiving or second guessing what you're receiving instead of trusting. So that fear of, oh my God, I could be wrong. I might be making this up, because it certainly feels that way. The majority of the time, it's the way our imagination will unfold that makes us question, like, am I just making this up in my head, or is it really a, a communication from a higher source, let's say?
Yeah, I like that a lot. It reminds me of, I think during times of trauma, I was talking with you guys earlier, your intuition is under pressure. So if your parent is dying and you got the sense ahead of time, like I did, I knew on the way to visit my father, I asked for a sign, I got it immediately, a funeral sign that this was serious. I think sometimes when we're under pressure, intuition skyrockets. Do you think that people who have been through traumatic things are a little bit more intuitive because they've been under pressure, forced, even people in the military or people, who have been through a lot sometimes develop quickly?
You're hypersensitive and hyper aware during moments of stress or trauma. Um, that's that is a trigger to opening your intuition. It's a rather sudden trigger, but it works. And another thing I notice is that sometimes when I'm really, really tired, all of a sudden I can't block the information. I have so much information coming in. That's happened to me in the past. Is that my intuition can be so spot on when I'm really, really tired at the end of the day. And often it's a very good time for me to speak with my communicating guide just as I'm going to bed, because I'm so tired. My defenses are down, and it's a good time to reach her. To have a recap of the day sometimes. But yeah.
Interesting. And I was going to ask you a question for people who are just kind of beginning and really don't know if what they're sensing is their intuition or not. How would you break it down? I think you were talking earlier about like someone might get a small picture of something and they need to learn to focus clearly on that picture? Are there tools like that that can help people?
Well, that's exactly it. Is that most of the information coming in from your intuition will be very, very fast. It's lightning quick, especially in the beginning, because we have to learn to recognize what is subtle. Like there's always a subtle image coming through or a subtle message coming through. It's always, what do I know? What do I see? What do I feel? What do I hear? Some people will hear a word, either from their own voice or from, let's say, a woman's voice or a man's voice, but it's not their own voice. Like it's just a very quick word. And with the various exercises that we put people through is that they learn to recognize that very fast image or that very fast word coming through or that sense of knowing. Like we spoke about a while ago, especially in the beginning for me, it was like this, is that I'd have a whole bunch of noise in my head. Like let's say if I was given an image to work with, I'd have various ideas coming in. And then the one that was correct was always that very quick one, just that very quick image just flashing by. But it takes time and practice to be able to focus on that one image. And once you notice it, then it opens up. And very often in intuition, I know we speak of this very often, is that, oh, I really don't want to deliver this information, or I am completely wrong on this. Go there. Go there. And Sylvie mentioned something very interesting, is that the fear of being wrong. You will be wrong. Everyone will be wrong. We are wrong sometimes. Like, I mean, we're human. So everyone will be wrong. You cannot be a psychic medium or an intuitive and be 100% right all the time. It just doesn't happen.
Well, and here's an example in my mind. Like sometimes if I'm giving a medium reading, an impression or picture will be pressed into my mind, and someone may look, I don't know, say like they're from that they're Native American when they're really from South America. And I might say, well, is your ex-husband or your husband Native American? And they might go, no, but just that picture looked to me as if he was Native American, you know? And so we can see an image and describe it, and it doesn't make sense to someone else at times. So it really kind of takes some digging.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is that you have to push forward with what you get, because everything is valid. Is because interpretation is so very important, and interpretation takes a lot of practice and a lot of time. It's because your sources of guidance or your higher self is trying to communicate information to you. Okay, and like we said, it's a language, so you have to learn to walk to the answer, to the correct answer. Like it's a step-by-step process. This is something that you get very good at the more practice you get. And like I said, you will get things wrong sometimes, and we still do. I remember we were doing a energy work session a few months ago, I think, and I had the image of a grandfather. The person we were working on was a woman, and I had the image of a grandfather coming through. And he kept showing me a lamp. So I had the grandfather and I had a lamp here. So I had two different images. And so I asked the woman, I said, is your grandfather deceased? And she says, yes. And I said, okay, well, what's the connection to a lamp and his image? And she said, there's no connection whatsoever. And I kept getting the image over and over and over, and I could not let it go. And I did not want to let it go because I knew that it would lead me somewhere. So at one point after the session, we were just talking, and then it just sparked in her. She says, oh my God, she says, I have a photo of him standing underneath a lamp.
Oh.
This is what I mean, is that people sometimes will not recognize what the information means in the moment.
Right.
Maybe later, when 2 hours later, 2 days later, 2 weeks later, it will make sense to them. It will have some sort of meaning. So that's why you have to push ahead. You have to be fearless in a way.
Yeah, like a friend of mine got a medium reading, and someone said, "Oh, someone has a strong connection to your imagery in England. And he thought, that's weird. You know, I don't really know anyone in England. And then he realized all these posts, his post and his Instagram feed were followed by this woman who was in England and loved every image of his photography and was like, oh my God, you're the best photographer ever. You know, just was so into him. So it's just, you know, these little tiny connections that didn't mean anything at that time. But then later, you know, he realized, oh, this person actually has a connection to me. And it's,
I know, for me, what has helped, because I'm still training my intuition, and something that's helped me along the way is asking my guides for clarification. So if I get an image and I have no idea what, you know, how to make sense of it, I'll say, can you send me another image? They'll usually send me another image. And if I still don't, I say, you know, I just ask for clarification over and over until I can somewhat make sense.
nice.
And I feel comfortable with bringing the information forward.
You know, that's the thing, is that you have to ask, whether you're asking your higher self, your guides, or whatnot, angels, doesn't matter. Ask questions. That's what they're there for, and that's what your higher self, the part of your essence that remains at home while you're living through this incarnation, will communicate with you. Right?
Do you, yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I was just going to ask you, do you have any ideas why some spirits are more chatty than others? Like some just seem so excited to talk and they just will start, you know, a verbal, you know, like almost a verbal, you know, like waterfall of information. And others might just send one sentence. And it's interesting.
So very interesting, because we were just talking about this a few days ago, is that I received communication from someone that was deceased, and the person was actually recently deceased, only a few months ago, and the communication was really not clear at all, not chatty at all, and I had a very, very difficult time trying to receive and to decipher what this person was trying to tell me. Recently deceased, and this person went through rather a lot of difficulties in life. Okay, so the transition to home is taking more time. They are able to communicate with us and send signs. Okay? But for a very clear channel to happen, some are able to do so very quickly after they're deceased, and others, it may take a few years before they were able to develop a very clear channel of communication or very clear signs.
I think there are many elements to that as well, because just like we have all these different personalities, so do the guides, because you have a whole team of guides where you have your communicating guide, you have one that's creative. So will come at times where, you know, inspired creativity in you. So they all have different personalities. So some might be more chatty and some might be more quiet.
I have one guide who's so quiet, and she does. She ensures that we are protected during sessions, making us aware of there's an untoward presence around or something like that, or there's a very negative situation. That's her entire role. But she is so quiet, like I hardly know that she's there. Whereas my communicating guide, our communicating guide, Robin, she's very chatty. And sometimes, well, actually, on certain days, she's very, very chatty. Other days, she's more subdued, more quiet. So it all depends. There's so many reasons.
Interesting. Like situational, or, you know, if you find yourself in a certain life experience, a different guide might come forward, just make their presence known, but not yet converse with you until the right timing.
So I have a question about protection. Some people might be worried if they start opening up their intuition, then they're just going to get an influx of information from all kind of sources. Or how do they, at the end of a reading, or when they really want to seal off their energy and not be contacted by anyone, do you have tips and tools for them for that kind of thing?
Actually, what you mentioned is so incredible, because at all times you want the highest form of communication and the highest form of love to come through. Okay, so you want the highest guide, the sources of guidance to come through, and the highest message that you can receive. so what we do actually is we just ask for the white light and the highest form of love and healing to flow through us at all times before we do anything. It doesn't matter what we do. Even if we're doing a simple card reading, we ask for that. We ask for a cleansing and we ask for that protection. And then if ever by any chance you have a presence coming in where something feels off, or you're receiving information that just seems so odd or just not right, and you will know because you have to be aware of what's happening inside of you at all times. So let's say if there's a negative presence that comes in, or something that just feels a little bit off, just ask, are you the highest form of communication that I can receive in the moment? Okay. And you will receive an answer. You will receive a feeling. You will know. And what you can do is you simply ask, then please leave, and I ask for someone else to come in, a higher form of guidance to come in. And it always happens at all times. We have control. We have 100% control of what happens to our energy fields at all times. If there's something there that's negative or just not right, well, we invited it in, okay? And it's staying there because we want it to stay there, okay? Through our own will. I'm sorry to say it that way, but that's the way it is. And some people may argue with that. No, they are there because you invited it, or you simply want it to stay there, or that presence feels comfortable to you in the moment, okay? So if you want to be protected, and if you want the highest form of guidance, you have to ask, and you have to be aware with what's happening with you inside at all times.
This is kind of a tricky question, but do you look around, the world, and do you think, oh, these people are perhaps being influenced by spirits that they shouldn't be influenced by? Do you see that around people? Or
100%. We see it all day long, each and every single day we see it around us.
Mm-hmm.
And even some of the people we work with, sometimes we'll see that and we'll point it out. We don't point it out to everyone in public. We just don't do that.
Yeah. Or people in the spiritual community, like, oh, don't listen to them. They're no.
No, well, that's it. Even within the spiritual community, I mean, there's a lot of people that are doing damage to others out there, and it's sad to say, but it happens. And this is something which, at one point, which will be purged. I figure, because there's a very high percentage of the people within the spiritual communities that are very self-serving. They're there for either money, or they're simply the money, or for status, or for prestige. No, you're in service to something that is greater than you, much greater. And you're doing this through unconditional love as best as you can. And so being humble is part of that package. Right. So self-serving is not, your needs are always met at all times. But self-serving attitudes, I don't prefer.
What about people who are genuinely hurting that you come across, who perhaps, out of fear or whatever, do want to create a better field and protect themselves and seal themselves off from the negativity of others or any negative energy that they've invited in? What do you tell them?
Well, first of all, one thing I notice when people are hurting, let's say, or they feel a lot of negative presences around them, what we find often is behavioral patterns that people have been in for let's say, 10, 20, 30 years, mm-hmm. thought patterns that they just circle around all the time. And it takes a while to break that. So it takes a different type of discipline in training to get them out of that mindset, because it's a very dense and negative mindset. And so it takes a lot of training, a lot of awareness, and a lot of cleansing. But the cleansing is not simply, we initiate the cleansing, we teach them how to do it, but then we empower them to do it. We don't have them come to us each time they need an answer. No, we'll give them the answers right in the beginning, and then we empower them. And to find those, we bring them the methods, or we help find the methods within them to develop and to empower them.
So yeah. I have one more question about, intuition. So have you seen people open up and use intuition in small and large ways and kind of cute ways? You know, have you seen people, ask angels about what they want to eat, or, you know, different tips in life, and really see people open up in a variety of ways?
Absolutely. I know for myself, like we go intuitive grocery shopping. So we don't
Nice.
necessarily have a set list. We'll just go to the grocery store and whatever we feel called to purchase that day or what we feel our bodies will need, that's what we'll purchase.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one neat way of using your intuition.
Very cool.
We practice this all the time. It's like I was saying a while ago, is that even just driving to the store, sometimes I'll think, okay, well, what color car will I meet at that particular intersection? You know, we play with this all the time. And we get a lot of feedback from people that we train, is that it's so excited when they start seeing signs. And usually ahead of time, we'll get the information. We'll tell them, like, watch for feathers in your life, or watch for a particular color of flower, or butterfly. A very specific butterfly will enter your life, this sort of thing. And what happens is that the universe or God will answer that call and will make them see what you need to see, just to expand and to get that greater awareness, and for them to grow in intuition and spirituality. It's actually a fun journey. Spirituality is actually a really, really fun journey. Once you let go of the fear, you learn to let go of the fear, you learn to trust in yourself. You're not actually just trusting the God and guidance and other sources of guidance. You're trusting in yourself. This is what you're learning to do. And have confidence in yourself, your own abilities.
And just as unique as we all are, so is our intuition. You know, you won't have one intuition the same for everyone. It's incredible to see what people gather from their intuition once they really embrace it.
I love how you said intuition is the language of the soul, because some people are more visual, some people hear music. So our brains just and our personalities work in a myriad of ways. So of course our intuition is going to dance into those parts of our brains that are strongest. You know, I'm a poet, so imagery strong for me, but I also, you know, I'm a communicator, so words are strong. So it comes in like that for me, and probably it comes in differently for different people.
Well, yeah, it's because you've always said that our guides will use our image bank. They'll use our experiences, our memories, and that's unique to everyone. So
because imagination is where everything happens. We're taught to completely dismiss imagination. What does every creative artist on earth do? They play with imagination. They play, they allow their imagination to grow and to develop, and they're playful with that. So what happens is that imagination is the portal to your intuition, right? You must go through imagination, and this is where your sources of guidance, your higher self, whatever is guiding you, okay? This is where you are able to reach you, is through your imagination. So that's why exercises are so important to develop intuition.
I have a question. Does your guide, Robin, who talks to both of you, which is so cool, does she ever use symbols? You know, like, is there a certain symbol, like, okay, gasoline, that means we need more power, or, you know, something out there that, you know, she really...
All the time. Or let's say if I'm... This is actually funny, because sometimes I'll get 3 or 4 words from her. And then I'll say, okay, which one do I focus on first? And then what she'll do is she'll show me a set of lights, or one particular word illuminating and just flashing and flashing. Oh, okay, I'm paying attention. This is the first area I need to cover. So she's very, very practical, because guides know, I mean, they have to work with our minds, and they know that we need a lot of time, a lot of practice, we have all the patience in the world to work with us. And like for me, like in order to develop intuition to the level I'm at now, I required years. I mean, from after my NDE, I mean, I came back and I had all these abilities, but they were just like of a sudden, you know, I'd be walking down the street and I'd look at someone, the person would look at me, and then I'd hear the person's thought. Very, very precise thought. But that was spontaneous. But now you want to be able to use your intuition on demand. You want it to be there 24 hours a day, you know? So this takes years of practice. So it doesn't matter if you had an NDE or not had an NDE, it doesn't matter. We all have to go through the same methods in order to get good with our intuition. And yeah, so it's such a fun journey though.
Interesting. And I have another question, and this is not necessarily my question, but these are just questions that people might ask.
Yes.
Some people might go, well, why do I need a guide? Like, why can't I just go to Jesus or to God and listen to, you know, the highest inspiration from these sources? What is the purpose of a guide?
There is no real purpose other than that. For us, the guide is very, very important because it's very personal to us.
Right.
And if you want to go to Jesus, please do. Directly to God, please do. If you want to use angels, do. It's what resonates with you. That's why intuition is very unique to everyone. I mean, to each person. Their intuition is so very unique. So it doesn't matter who they go to. I don't care if they see their guide as a dog. Great, beautiful. You know, a talking dog or something.
Some dogs give a lot of love.
Of course they do. All dogs give a lot of love.
The word guide itself is so encompassing of so much more. Mm-hmm. It's not just, you know, like we have our communicating guide, but like you said, it could be Jesus, it could be angels, it could be anything. Yeah,
it's just that our guide, what happened is that, well, I mean, I saw my guide during my NDE, so that's when she was presented to me, or she showed up. And then after that, I mean, communication started to be very, very precise. And then she started giving me a history of the last time she incarnated on Earth. So that's when I found out. I said, okay, so you've been on Earth before. And she says, yes, well, I have to. In order to guide you, I have to know the complexities of emotions on Earth and the complexities of negativity and its effects on people. So she needed to know all this before she became a communicating guide. So that's what I found interesting. But not everyone will have a very specific communicating guide, because sometimes only their higher selves.
Exactly.
They only need their higher selves. And that's so there's nothing wrong with that. And some people say that they speak with Jesus, and I believe them because their information is very, very precise.
I had this wonderful friend who's passed on now. And actually, I think I asked you about him and you gave me a quick reading on him, but Clyde. And he used to meet me at lunch, and he would go, well, while I was waiting for you, I had lunch with Jesus, and we talked about this and that. And it was so sweet and so beautiful. And he just would, you know, embody that energy of Jesus in those moments. And
that love of Jesus. Yeah. It's just, I don't know why. Well, I mean, I know why society where we have to segregate everything, compartmentalize everything. It's because spirituality is universal. There's only one God, and guess what? Is that each and every one of us are a cell of the divine. So we can all claim to be God because we are a cell of the divine. Okay, there is a Godhead per se. He and she.
Yes.
The divine masculine, and we are all cells of the divine. So everything, everything on earth, I find, our incarnations are so unique, so individual, and we all have specific experiences to go through. But when we go back home, we notice that there's not one entity or one being that is more important than another. Is that we are all equal. We are all the same. There is not one entity that is greater or worse than another one. We're all the same. And that's what's so beautiful.
And then every person goes, well, but I am a little bit different. You know, like once they're here, though, they hold on to that. And that's the source of all the trouble here is like, you know, this, oh, but I'm special in this way. Instead of this, we're all connected and we're all part of this. And we're all here to express love in our own unique way. And that is a beautiful part of God. But that separation is what causes so much trouble here. So much trouble.
separation. You're probably well, I know you are aware of this. Is that when you after you die during your NDE, same thing with me. Is that I noticed how incredibly unique I was. That one cell of the divine, and that's just a tiny fraction, just a minute particle of the divine. So unique and still so integral and so important to that, to the ensemble of God, okay, the universe or whatnot, whatever you want to call it. And at the same time, we're all linked. We're all linked together. Like we truly are all one. So we are so very unique, and at the same time, we are part of the whole. So we are able to communicate. I mean, what we do is that our specialty is energy work. So what happens is you notice very quickly that energy communicates. All energy communicates. It doesn't matter if it's a blade of grass, a leaf on a tree itself, a person, an animal, an insect, a bird, the water, an ocean, a mountain. Everything carries information. Everything is encoded. Energy is just encoded information. And we can read this information. And all energies blend together. So that's how you're able to read, because you're able to draw in energy. This is how we pick up information. This is how you are able to do your reading also, is because you invite energy into your space. And then afterward, after you're done your reading, well, then you cleanse yourself. You get rid of the energy because you don't want to carry that around with you all the time. So
sometimes this happens when I'm interviewing near-death experiencers, is the energy is so large. It's like a universe comes into my field, and it's hard for me to even concentrate because I'm just so lost in these beautiful energies. And I hope other people feel that too. You know, like that's such a gift. I think that near-death experiencers bring, is bringing that other side, you know, just some of that energy of the afterlife to other people. And it's really important.
You just mentioned something that we also touch upon during the training, is that it's that spatial place, not special, but spatial place that you go into sometimes, is that everything is so vast, so expanded, and you begin to swim in that and you become part of it. And at the same time, let's say during an interview or during an energy work session or a reading, you still need access to your analytical mind. Something that takes a while to balance, you know, because it's not like a meditation. Sometimes I can just get lost, you know, and I just let myself drift and I go into trance. And well, I'm allowed to do it then, but let's say during a reading, is that, well, we need that analytical mind. Like, we can't forget what we're doing in the moment.
Right. In the middle of some interviews, I was like, what was my next question? Okay. I'm way out here.
Yes.
So
that's about being grounded and balanced and well centered. You know, it's focused training is so important. Like focused, focused training. Yeah. It's something that you're trained to do. Focus is something that you're trained for. It's so hard.
I was going to say, it's not easy. There are so many distractions. And sometimes you're not even aware. I mean, I'm going through extensive training now, and I was living in a big city, and there's no way I would have been able to do it there, because you're constantly bombarded by energies. There's noise everywhere. You know, there's just, you know, just everything. There's too much. But now we're in a country setting, it's just the nature and the quiet, and you notice that it takes a while even to
unwind.
Yeah.
Basically unwind. Yeah, it's
because we're so conditioned in society now to be distracted with cell phones, technology.
What would be your advice to people, though, who have to live in a city and are surrounded by traffic and surrounded by noise and still want to connect with their intuition?
Find a spot, find a place, create a space. Even if it's within your own home and it's a noisy place, create a space. Because at one point, that space will grow and grow and grow, and your focus will increase as you go. And that's what we did when we were in the city for several months, is that I created a space. Like we had a space, like her
Yeah.
room, our room, I should say, was a safe zone. It was where we could just allow ourselves to be free. We could meditate, and there was a lot of noise outside. There was noise within the building itself, but still, like when we entered that space, it was like an oasis. You have to find these spots. Like for some people, when they're training, they'll go to a park. You know, they'll take one day a week, they'll go to a park, and then they'll do some meditation, they'll do some intuitive exercises and whatnot. That's where they begin. Find a space of your own. Sometimes it's a little corner within a very tiny apartment, but still it's your space. You create it, and it grows and grows and grows. And then you start to notice that you don't hear the noise outside because you're paying so much attention to what's happening inside of you, is that everything just breathes away.
And it's being disciplined to do so as well. Like knowing that, you know, if you're entering that space, you can't bring your electronics with you. Like take 5 minutes and just leave them out there, you know, because they are distracting more than people realize.
Oh yes, definitely.
The funny thing about it is that it's here we're telling people to get rid of your electronic device. I mean, temporarily, like just for an hour or two or whatnot, and we're teaching this online. So,
I know.
It's funny.
There's balance. There really is. There's beauty and connection that we can have with people across the country. I mean, you guys feel like such dear friends, and it's fun to chat. And yet you're in Canada, and I'm in Texas. It's crazy.
I know.
It comes in handy.
It's wonderful, but it is also a time suck. You know, like there will be times when like too much time has gone by, and I'm like, I felt really busy, but I wasn't really that busy. I was just posting things, and it takes up too much of one's life. So I'm lucky to live in a beautiful area where I can get to nature quickly, and it's important to get away from these screens and to have that time.
Yes.
Because nature was, especially for you, because nature was such a big part of your NDE too.
Yes.
The message was communicated to you very clearly.
Yes.
We are able to renew our resources. We need contact with nature every single day.
Yes.
I even if I'm in a city, I need to see a tree somewhere. I have to find a tree.
Oh yeah.
Day, I have to see a tree.
Yeah. Like some people need a cappuccino. It's like, I gotta see a tree. Where's a tree?
That's funny. Yeah. Well, that's exactly right, Tricia.
Yeah. Well, cute. I have enjoyed this, and I think we'll stop here because there's a lot that I think people could ask you, and I can tell that just from, you know, this conversation that people will want to ask you questions about intuition and hear what you both have to say, and it could be very helpful for people. So thank you for talking with me. And if you're interested in Daniel and Sylvie's class, I'll post the link to their website below, and they will send you the Zoom link. But thank you.
Well, thank you, Tricia, and thank you everyone for listening, and we hope to see you at the online intuition.